Coach, you're one of the most positive people I know, and how do you analyze the fact that it was Marcus who got nailed, for lack of a better word, the defensive, arguably the great man and defensive player of the year, arguably? How do you put it into perspective?
Well, obviously this thing spreads very quickly and doesn't need as much contact as obviously you get when you're in the middle of a basketball game. But I'm just happy that when he tested positive, he continued to experience no symptoms and has felt great ever since. We landed from Milwaukee 15 days ago now, and so that was he's been feeling good. I'm checked in with him as everybody else has very regularly. I've seen him on conference calls a few times, and he seems to be doing really well. And I'm proud of how he kind of took the initiative to tell people that he had it and that he felt good and that he got online and just continued to ask people to practice social distancing and self-isolation. Right now, it's just it's a really unique, unsettling time for everyone.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Brad and Chuck Corrales, how long do you think it would take if you guys do come back, assuming the optimistic timelines, if you do come back, say, July 1st, let's say, at what point, what date do you think you would need to come back to start training, like a pseudo training camp, to get these guys to ramp up and safely return to playing NBA basketball?
Yeah, that's a really good question. If the facilities were open, if they had access to courts right now around the league, then I would say that it would take less time. But obviously, with that being the case, there's going to be, there's ultimately going to be a need for kind of reacclimation to just the individual drills to ramp up your own individual conditioning, which our guys are trying to do as much as they can in their homes and in their apartments and in those type of things right now. But it's a better question for the sports scientists and our medical staff, but I think it'll be interesting, and that's assuming that we get back to playing. I know they're bouncing around a ton of scenarios right now, but there's no doubt that there would be a kind of getting in shape reacclimation phase that would have to be a part of that.
And do you know what the staff is doing for these guys to sort of try to stay in shape in their own?
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of things going on. There's been bikes delivered. There's been the individual weights delivered. There's some voluntary virtual training sessions, because now obviously we can't make anything. We can't do workouts in person because the facilities are closed. So anything basketball related for us right now is just a voluntary conditioning, strength and conditioning session. We don't, as a coaching staff, we've talked a lot about we're keeping a pulse on all of our team and all of our individuals. We're, on Zoom teleconferences a couple times a week so we can all see each other's faces and talk about non-basketball things. But we're like the rest of the world that basketball is taking a far back seat, and I think it's more important right now that we're a community of coworkers and a community of friends and people that care about each other that get online and make sure we're all doing okay. So everybody's checking in every day, either individually, and then a couple times, 2 to 3 times a week. We've already had 2 Zoom conferences this week, and we'll have a couple more next week.
Okay, Brad, how much effect if Marcus tested positive? Someone and perhaps other people have tested positive as well. How much did that just drive home the seriousness of this whole thing?
think the seriousness, was being driven home before we even shut down games, right? I mean, I think when people start talking about the media restrictions in the locker room and how close we could be when interviewing, we were all flying to Milwaukee that Wednesday after we played Indiana, thinking we would probably play the Milwaukee game with no fans. But obviously that all changed during the Oklahoma City game, and I think that in a unique way, that was a starting point for the whole country in recognizing that. I know a lot of people that have or that have experienced symptoms, or that ultimately were throughout this NBA family that have gotten this. So it's I think it hit home well before that, Mark. But I do think that Wednesday night will be something that I think we all remember, and obviously the days following that, as we entered this kind of new world. My heart goes out to all the people that are, we're calling sitting at home an inconvenience, right? What a joke! There's so many people that are working so hard every day to try to help our communities and help the sick, and putting their own selves at risk. And I think anytime you turn on the TV, it hits home even more.
How are Marcus's spirits, by the way?
Great. He's great. Great spirits. Joking as always. Had a Zoom conference yesterday with the team. Told the team we were going to give them their own space to hang out, have fun, and he told us to get off. So he's great.
How are you doing, Coach?
Like I said, I'm trying to do everything that we're asked to do. We get out, and we can go for walks, but I haven't been in my car other than to quickly move it into a new spot. In 16 days, or 15 days, but my thoughts are with everybody who's really facing this thing, and you feel so bad, and I was just putting together a PowerPoint to show our kids, today, that is, where this is nationally, where this is locally here in the New England region, and all the different ways that people are helping and doing their part, as we're kind of sitting in our own little bubbles, being self-quarantined and isolated.
Coach Kyle Hightower from the AP. Obviously, while you're, like you said, there's so many things that are not basketball related, going on that you're, it's kind of engulfing the country. As a basketball coach, as you look at the schedule and look at the timeline kind of being pushed back and back and back, do you allow yourself at all to kind of say, if you do go straight to the playoff, this could be my opponent, right now, if you can end it, or are you so far away from basketball that it's not even on your mind right now?
No, I'm doing, what I've done is I've gone through here while I've been at home, all of my typical postseason evaluations. So usually I wait till after the playoffs are over, after the season ends, and do a series of, film studies and those types of things, and just stat studies and individual studies and those. But I'm actually knocking those out now, and in hope that it helps us dial into what we need to do should we be able to resume playing, and what we need to focus on when we get back to practice. It would be a unique situation to be off for as long as we're going to be off, to have to reacclimate, recondition. But you do already have a system in with those 15 guys. And so it's really an interesting thing, because usually you have 5 back or 6 back or whatever when you go to a training camp scenario. So, I'm sure that everybody's looking at different things and tweaks and, things that were really good for them when they reviewed and analyzed their team, and things that weren't as good. And, and then I'm, other than that, just working on things that I think will be applicable if we get back together. But I just don't think it's appropriate right now to be hammering basketball with our guys. everywhere and keeping the media away. Do you feel like enough was done during that time, or was it kind of at that time people maybe didn't know enough?
I just think hindsight's 2020 in this situation. I mean, when is the right time to stop and be the time where you could go back and figure out when the first case or zero cases were, and I just don't know that's a reasonable expectation of people in charge. I think what the league did and how the rest of the country followed suit, I think speaks to a lot about Adam's leadership and our owners and everybody else. It's an unsettling thing for everybody, and obviously I'm not a scientist, so I listen to the people that are. I pay attention to the people that are, and if they tell me to do something, I'm doing it. And it sounds like that, at least from an NBA perspective, we had an action plan, and we had there was a group of people that were involved in that decision that were really well educated on this topic and in constant contact with Adam in the league. So, I think obviously they had a big impact that night. Again, I go back to. I mean, it had a big impact on all of you. It had a big impact on me. Certainly had a big impact on the country.
Brad, have you gotten any indication as to if you do return, what possible circumstances it might be under? Like, do you know if you'd be playing at the Garden, or would you be playing at the practice facility or a neutral site? Have you gotten any indication from the league what might be
some of that? Some of that stuff is being brainstormed and bannered about, at a 10,000-foot view, and then I'm sure they'll dial into details of that when some possible scenarios become more clear. But hey, John, you turn on the TV, and there's different viewpoints of how long this thing is going to take. But anybody that is, speaking scientifically or from that point of view, says it's going to take a while. And so you see the schools are closed here till May 4th. You see all the stay-at-home advisories all around the country. Like there are, I think there's a lot to determine. And I don't think you can determine any of that until you have a timeline. And it's just almost impossible to get a timeline right now.
Final couple questions for Brad here.
Yeah, Brad, this is Gary Washburn.
Hi, Gary.
Hey, Brad, what have the discussions been like with your kids about this whole thing? I mean, obviously now you're a complete full-time dad. What's it been like over the last few weeks to explain to your kids that they can't go do things that they've done, for their whole lives?
Yeah, I think that's why like today it hit me like we got to, Tracy and I watch the news every night after they go to bed, and you keep an eye on it as the day's going on, but it's just a sobering reminder of how bad it is and how many people are doing so much for the rest of us, and that's one of the reasons why I think it's important to share that with Brady and Kinsley right now. And obviously spending a lot of time at home, spending a lot of time with them, they're learning how to use Zoom and do their distance learning and e-learning and find a way to stay connected to their friends through the incredible amount of technology we still have. And but it is, I think that we all have to be able to, as parents, look at it and say, okay, this is how we provide comfort in these times. But also you have to, I want my kids to know that, the people that are driving by our house that have, or that